Attendance, we have Ellie, Ramona, myself, Kevin, Paul. Attendance, we have in advance of the meeting, I know Jenny sent out the minutes from the June meeting, if everyone had a chance to review them. I was not here, so I'll assume they're correct. If anyone has any comments to correct or add, now's the time. All right, seeing none, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ramona. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition or abstention? Seeing none, motion carries. Now I'll turn it over to you to go through or Paul to go through the financial report before we ask for an approval, just in case there's any questions. I have one question. In the equity section on page 3, the fund balance unrestricted, 1,210,657. That's unspent grant money, or is that income through sale of properties because it's unrestricted? I'm just curious what makes up that balance and why it's different than checking accounts. You probably reviewed it before, I just don't remember. It's cash if it's fund balance.
I can ask the accountants what that means.
Okay. So that's very significant, that's why I was asking. Fit into a category? I'm not saying it's inaccurate, it just didn't fit into a category, so I'm just curious what that was.
I'm assuming that's like invested, how much we've invested in the buildings, but.
Okay, it could be. Could be it's equity, right?
Yeah.
So that may be one is evaluation, sort of estimate or placeholder or actual, I don't know. Necessary net income.
Yeah.
I think a very nice change for the positive,
Yes.
almost 500,000, which is great.
You didn't get the.
I didn't get the balance sheet.
You don't have to, here, take that.
Oh, I apologize.
Yeah,
I
no,
printed, I brought this with me.
Here,
Just wanted to-
I just have a
So-
email. Oh.
No, that's okay. Maybe if you want to just report back, the account on what makes up that unrestricted fund balance, and then
We can also wait to approve because there might be, since this is year end, there might be like
so why don't we take it?
adjustments,
That's fine.
to make sure we get everything in for June. for year end.
So then why don't we, for those purposes, why don't we table it till the next month's
Okay.
meeting? And if you just want to go through maybe for the next month's meeting with some footnotes on anything noteworthy, or get the explanation of that, and anything on the properties that are noteworthy at all, both on the balance sheet and on the property is fine. Any real pressure to approve them, there's still questions. And the turnaround in the net income was primarily from just sales.
Sales, there were
property.
a lot of sales
Right.
at the beginning.
And much higher values than
Right.
years past. All remembers we used to get excited when the sale price had 5 digits in it.
Right.
We had a lot of 4-digit sales.
We had some of those as well,
Yeah,
still this
yeah,
year,
and that's
but
okay.
we also did some full scale renovations
Yeah,
that were
yeah.
came in higher.
Yeah, we used to do high fives for the $1,200 sideline sales.
Yeah.
Okay. So why don't we do that? We'll table that for next month. We don't need so the approval for that. So we'll table that. And you've got an item here to meeting date change. Is that
Oh, well,
what this last
so-
month, or-
We had kind of talked a little bit about changing the day of the meeting because Wednesdays seem to be hard.
Okay.
For Lisa, although she's not here today to discuss that,
Okay.
but we had changed to Wednesday for a previous board member, maybe, and I don't know if that's significant anymore, that it'd be on Wednesday.
Okay.
You
Doesn't
know,
matter to me.
we can leave it as is for now and bring it up at the next meeting.
Or maybe just send an email
Okay,
out to the group, it's gonna be unofficial, just to get a sense that they're.
Yeah,
activities.
I'm pretty sure Lisa cannot do Wednesdays in person. So
Right.
if we want Lisa to.
Yeah, sure.
Continue.
No, that's fine, but maybe it was.
then, well, once we make the decision, then we have to publicize it as the only issue.
Right, but if we get to consensus by the end of this week, we have 4 weeks to publicize it.
Wednesdays are good typically, but we have to change it.
Well, why don't we do a little poll by the email and see what consensus we can come up with.
Exactly, of course, too.
A doodle,
Yeah, that's,
Yes.
yeah, or you can pick days and
Yeah.
work off which days work for them.
right,
Yes.
Alright, so you'll send out a note to this kind of get consensus from the group. And, obviously, Lisa being here first is important, so. And the last organizational matter is the strategic planning process, which I think felt minutes was quite a good discussion last,
yeah, so the last meeting, our consultant, Susan was here, or she, participated in part of the meeting, just to kind of introduce the process, and to get some initial thoughts from the board about, you know, issues to address. Then she came to our staff meeting, last week or 2 weeks ago. And, you know, we went through, you know, different issues that we thought were most pertinent to focus on. And, she's gonna come back to our August 3rd staff meeting, and any board member is welcome to attend that. At noon on Tuesday, August 3rd. And then she was gonna do like a survey of board members, I think similar to what she did the previous time. It could also be an interview if people prefer that, instead of filling out a survey. I don't think it'll be too strenuous of a survey. But that's an option. And then she wanted to know if the board was interested in doing like an in-person, like, a meeting.
Mhm.
I think we did the last time as well, it would be like a 4 to 6 hour type of thing.
Yeah,
And it
like
could
half
be-
day, full day retreat.
Right, it could be, you know, it could be a weekday evening or weekend, whatever works best. We were thinking like September or October. And then we were talking about doing a doodle poll for that to see.
Right, yeah,
So we could send out different options to see what would work for,
I think October would be better because we start budgets.
right,
Yeah, it's almost every
So
day.
every day we visit.
okay. So we'll follow up with that, but we're
Yeah,
trying to get
that's
the ball rolling.
Great idea. Before, a little overdue, yes,
Yeah.
but, yeah, that'd be great.
And I can't remember if I reported the last time, but we did get the grant from the Dyson Foundation to cover most of the costs.
Oh, terrific.
Yeah.
And that's for the consultant cost and reporting or.
Yeah, it's mostly the consultant and some administrative.
Okay, great. So why don't we do that, we'll figure out a day in October, or half day before they say 4 to 6 hours.
Mhm.
Very good. Okay, good. Want to move on to property related matters?
So, you know, similarly to last month, we're doing, you know, moving right along with the Johnson Street properties. And they're still estimated to be complete in August or September. And we're gonna hopefully, we'll start marketing that as soon as possible. And 150 and 115 Lander, that those were started in June and they're moving along nicely as well. And we're anticipating completion in the beginning of the winter.
Okay.
We are applying for a bridge loan to cover some of the costs, and that's moving forward.
Okay.
That's really, I don't want, just to repeat each time, but we're happy with how those are going.
And then when those 4 properties are ready, they are unrestricted sales or they're covered by other funding sources?
So those are what we're using.
Those are all house.
Enterprise funding,
Okay.
the Attorney General, the remaining funding from the Attorney General's office. And then, our own equity, that's why we're applying for a bridge loan so that
Right.
we can get help with that and then be repaid by the sales. But they're restricted in terms of the sales to 80% area median income for purchasers.
For Jen, we received an email on Monday from Tom, just an update on the construction schedule for Johnson Street properties. So those finish dates are pushed back by about a month.
Okay,
I think it was originally around mid-September, we're looking at mid-October now.
okay.
As we may finish before that, but it's unclear. 27 Johnston just passed its framing inspection, rough framing, rough electric, rough plumbing. They're doing insulation and fire stopping now. That'll be inspected ASAP, and then the sheet rock will go on. And then at that point, it will be pretty close to the point where 43 is. And windows are being delivered, I think within a week. Doors are there. Once the windows are in, the wood floors will go down. And the painting will happen between that. So I think that we will be okay. There's a couple of things we have to nail down, but just wanted that point of clarification. I don't know this would be August.
Okay. This thing got really ambitious as usual for construction timelines.
We have people interested already in those companies too, so.
Yeah, well, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, we're starting to get interest, and we do have, for anybody interested, there's an email sign up on our website. You can sign up specifically for the House to Home program to get notified of updates, or just on our general mailing list, and we'll send out updates to when applications are gonna be ready.
Do we have a projected thought on the sale prices we're gonna be looking for these properties when they're fully rented? I understand the 80%.
Right, so it's gonna be-
the purchaser, but what are we projecting, or our sense of what our sale price is gonna be in the market?
It's gonna be different for each building because one of them has 3 units, the rest have 2 units, and they're
Right.
different sizes. It's like in the 250 range, I would say.
Yeah, they appraised for between 325 and 350.
Wow.
Great.
After though, yeah. But that's, and that's still even well below what obviously that's not affordable at a D grade, but it's still quite a bit below what the home sales limits are.
But how would you get someone who that math does not work? You can't get someone who makes 80% AMI to pay less than 30% of their income.
Well, there is the rental income does count towards their income. And there is, they could also be eligible for down payment assistance through the Sunny May program.
You're still,
Yeah.
you're not, the math is, because you're way off.
Right. Well, those aren't exact numbers.
Okay.
We have to run the numbers more specifically. Because it also would depend on household size. Right?
Yeah, but it does, sure, but the skew of household size from top to bottom is 40,000, so it's not, where someone makes 80% of counting AMI, which I assume we all agree
Right,
that's what we're
yeah.
counting, is still, for a family of 3, is around 85,000.
Right.
Plus they make, so they make on each unit a little under, like, let's say 15,000 a year per unit, if you're adding 85,000 plus 30,000. They're, with mortgage and taxes, they're not making, this is well over 30% of their income. We just need to start, when the numbers start to go that high, we need to start figuring out
Right,
where that falls.
right,
Well, the max home sales price in this
that's what we were basing.
PSA is $359,000 for a 2-unit.
Right.
Oh, understood, I mean, I live here, I pay taxes here, but we are not the market, I mean, that's the point of the land bank, right?
Right, and we'll start to get pushback from the council as well, that's their concern right now, which is why we just, Ally and her staff just updated the disposition policy on buying, city-owned properties.
Right. Well, we can review, what do you think is more affordable?
So you're saying that basically it's a calculation, so even if the free market value is 282,000, it's for someone at 80% AMI, you just need to set the.
It's gonna, yeah, it's, we're just gonna cap out,
162,000.
right, and maybe
Whatever.
200, or even
Right.
250, which I thought,
Yeah,
the first
that
time I
was
was like,
average,
oh, okay.
yeah.
And then 350, you're just.
No, we're not saying 350 is the
We're saying
sale
that's
price.
the appraisal.
Oh, I'm
It's
sorry.
the value,
Okay,
yeah,
so you
sorry.
weren't saying.
I'm not saying that's what we're gonna sell it for,
Okay,
that's the
I
appraisal, it's
Yeah.
kind of like the benchmarks, this is the appraisal, this is the max home sales price,
Okay.
where are we gonna find?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we're not
Actually, we
selling
had
it
it
for
like
350K.
Yeah,
Average.
Still high, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, the issue is that we're putting in like 430,000 per building.
No, understood, I mean, the point of
Yeah.
land is to take a loss so we
Yeah.
can meet things, but now that the prices are starting to
Right,
go, as David said, we used to not have before.
No, this is like walking on the moon right now.
right. No, it is, these are
It's not
a little bit
12 hours.
larger than the last ones we did, that were, the sales price was significantly lower, but the square footage of these are more, so
How many bedrooms are we looking at in those?
2 to 4
Wow.
for the owner occupied. Which
The
one,
owner.
yeah, so it's like there's duplex, owner occupied unit, and then like a 1-bedroom rental still.
So is for the calculation of income, is, like, if I'm renting, so you're saying it's 15,000 a year, so you're sort of assuming each unit will rent at like $1,100 a month or
Yeah.
something. The math is the math.
Although you can't find a 1-bedroom these
Right,
days.
yeah,
for
yeah,
100,
yeah.
it's
The
going for like
rental, that
15.
one of ours is renting at 475, 1475 a month.
Yep.
For a single bedroom.
So that actually is interesting, not that we're trying to elevate the price, but I'm
Right,
saying
but they
maybe
can
a
get more.
different equation, if that their income is $42,000 a year for the units as opposed to 29, right? It's all math, so.
But the rental units are also subject to income limitations, so it's also 80% AMI, which I know that's high AMI, but there is, that has to be affordable to 80% AMI for the rental as well.
Right.
And we're gonna be working with Pathstone with their homeownership counseling program. People can go and get certified there to their program, which will make them eligible for Sony down payment assistance and other assistance for purchasing the homes. So somebody who emailed this week, I referred her there, she already signed up for the training. So people can start doing that.
And do you know if she's local?
Yeah, she said they have a store on Liberty Street.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I think it's important that we make sure that, if we can just get it out to the public, that, it's local people that are applying.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, we're having, our scoring criteria is very similar to the city's new disposition policy in terms of preference for people who live within the city for at least 5 years.
That's Sean's lab, I think at the end of the day, we'll sort it out. Okay.
A quick question. And how is the selling price determined and who determines it?
Well, we do, there is the income restriction, so that will determine the price, that we were talking about the home, using the like HUD standards for, the, maximum sale price for that income bracket. But that's actually higher than what we were thinking we would be selling for, and we can, you know, run the numbers more specifically to see. I mean, we don't wanna do the max affordability either, like we wanna make it affordable to 70% area median income or something like that. The lowest, you know, affordability rate that we can, you know, manage with the costs that we've had. And so there are limits from our funders on, you know, how high it can be, but we'll try to figure out the max affordability that we can
Sure.
manage.
Okay.
Church of Holy Deliverance.
So we have, last month we mentioned that the subdivision application was approved by the planning board. We're just waiting on that paperwork, and then the church still needs to go through their legal process, so not much change there.
And I think it's obvious, but we can't surveyor ever again, he's been a
It's taken a very long
That's
time.
the thing.
He's in his planning board building, Jay.
Yeah.
So Jay came in my office and was like, can I copy Jenna on an email? I was like, yes, please do. And I'm like, as soon as she copied, responded.
Is that why it's-
He's been very, I mean, they like merged with another company, and that, you know, COVID, and I started this whole process of the subdivision before COVID, I think. And or maybe in the beginning, but it was also, like I contacted a few different surveyors, and it was hard to find somebody, and so he said he would do it, but yeah, then he merged with another company, and there was like numerous issues. And it should not have taken this long, and now it's still dragging on. So, yeah, we won't use them again, but hopefully there'll be others that we can,
Yeah, what's the name?
I
We don't use.
don't even
We can
remember the
send an
name of the
email.
new company, but we'll send you a copy, an email. I mean, he seems to know what he's doing, it's just been, yeah. So to be continued.
Through Ten Chambers.
So this is for 10 Chambers is the lot that the land bank owns across the street here, and, you know, we've been talking about how to market this lot. We were waiting on the remediation that DC was doing at 151 Liberty, which is the city-owned lot. And then they had to do some remediation on our side, and that was completed. I was told by the DEC person that they were gonna get a letter to me by the end of this month, verifying that the work was complete. So, you know, we had discussed doing like a joint marketing of both those lots, but I'm not sure if that makes the most sense, and you know, the city side is probably gonna take longer to go through the legal process that they need to go through, because that's where the most significant, you know, contamination was from the gas station located there. And you know, kind of thinking this through more, it kind of makes sense to just market our lot and have, you know, because also it probably makes sense to have two separate buildings anyway.
How big is our lot?
100 by 90.
100 by 90, yeah.
So, I don't know.
So there's, you know, significant street frontage on Chambers. There has been, you know, people have contacted us, there's definitely interest.
Right.
And so we could just go ahead and do our own RFP.
Probably be quicker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I keep asking, every once in a while I ask, and it's just, no, we are not moving forward until we have that,
The release.
the release, so.
So why would we do that? It's all vacant, or it's partially built out, or it's
It's just a lot.
It's all lot.
Weird.
A lot.
Right, I know
That's
there's
like the
like
weird
stuff on it.
topography.
Is that
Just
retaining
a-
wall there too?
You can almost.
No,
see
the
it.
retaining wall is the end of the property.
Oh,
It's just this, yeah, this hill and then there's just a chain link fence, which is
Right,
completely
okay,
covered.
but I thought, I mean, sure, right, so I think it's marketed as a, I guess it's a lot.
Oh, right here?
Just right there. So from the building on the corner to this retaining wall.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So that,
Yeah,
it's a lot of
10,000
street
square foot
frontage
lot.
basically, and
Pretty
it'd be
lot.
great if it was anything besides the dumping.
I know, right?
Right, and it's stable where somebody could raise it, flatten it.
It is already has a flat top at the
Top.
at the
Right
top,
there.
exactly. So the only grade is basically right here at
Oh,
Grand
okay,
Chamber Street. So.
got it, okay.
Mhm.
Pick your neighbor.
No.
No.
Yeah, and
No.
I think we wanna be very targeted in our RFP about, you know, what kind of community amenities we wanna see there. And, you
In
know,
what sense? No argument.
well, like, you know, whatever are the identified needs right now, like a food, you know, some kind of.
So we wouldn't sell it for residential.
No, it could be mixed use, like
Mixed use.
commercial, commercial on the bottom, yeah.
That makes sense.
You know,
Yeah.
something that is either gonna create
That's
jobs, gonna provide necessary services,
Mhm.
it's gonna, you know, like food access, which is a huge issue. You know. And, you know, so we could design an RFP that way. I know it's not
Food
big enough
access
for a grocery
Yeah,
store.
it's not, I mean, that's my
Yeah.
thing, it's not big enough for
Yeah.
a grocery store, it can just compete with a bodega, so I'm not sure that unless they.
Plus you
create
get the traffic, right?
Yeah.
If it's a food store, you wanna pop in.
Right, and you got a one-way street or two, which is probably just maybe ground floor commercial.
Yeah, but I mean, job creation.
Job creation.
Yes.
Specifically.
So we should be there, right? in
Yeah,
our
we
piece.
had a couple where we just did, please clearly document the net new jobs to the city of Newburgh.
Mhm.
So if you were moving a business here or starting a new business, then,
Well, we had, I don't know if, you know, if it's big enough for something like this, but we were kind of fantasizing about like some kind of incubator or commercial. And,
Somebody's already thinking.
yeah, I know there are a lot, people have been kicking
There's
it
some
around.
people that are.
Okay,
Those ideas sometimes get kicked around for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, and I know
Somebody
it's
wants to
like
really do it.
very popular right now.
It's very popular.
Yeah,
Are people
there's
close,
Brentford, yeah,
are people close to executing on it, or is it just a popular thing to think of?
I think they're closer than, you know, than this project.
Well,
Yeah.
certainly,
okay. So we can be more general about job creation.
Yeah.
Or community service of some.
great.
some community. Transit hub. Trolley station.
Transportation people.
Transit hub.
But what would they put there, like electric cars, well, bicycles?
Two charging stations.
Yeah,
There are no charging stations.
I know, right?
there's one in.
Oh, there is?
There's
Oh,
one in
there's
Troy.
not seen.
I don't think they can put it in staff, do they?
That's
Is
not.
it-
I'm gonna
a
tell people
requirement.
now.
Yes.
Is it public or is it for
No,
students
it's
and
not, I mean,
faculty?
it's public law.
You can put one on Broadway.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, that, I just know that in my town, that's like a new requirement now, that any new development has to include a charging station, yeah. If, I guess, yeah. Like the Coleman Street one would have to, definitely have to include that in the way we have. But, so, okay, so we can get started on developing the RFP for that,
That makes useful.
yeah.
Yeah, and just the city recently put out some RFQs, we got a lot of responses, so
Yeah.
I think there's some
A lot of
good, and
interest.
quality responses, which is nice, so,
Mhm.
the more of the like couple photocopy sheets of paper, it's like, oh, okay.
The ones that cross from the schools.
Yeah, exactly, so
That'd be great. Maybe review a draft.
Sure. Yeah, and, yeah,
Developments on current project.
Well, one thing to heads up, and I guess it goes into 104, although, you know, their zoning has a height, we're finding the historic district, that the Historic District Commission, the ARC, is not interested in meeting that maximum height too. So you may want to say, rather than we expect buildings to be as tall as the zoning, we, you know, we expected a smaller scale, a scale that meets the neighboring buildings or something.
Arbitrarily small standard.
I mean, I think here there's a little bit more room for that. There's a lot
Not
of
super
more
tall,
smaller
yeah.
buildings
Right,
around.
Only hope, but.
Although he got held up and
Yeah.
a lot of
Well, and
pushback,
they're
right?
doing, Spitting's South Building is exactly the same, it's as tall as its neighbor, it's still too tall, so it's much less tall than its neighbor actually, because its neighbor has a ring cycle on it, so.
Well,
Feel bad for them.
Yeah.
so we'll put some qualifiers on it, it better be realistic about
Yeah,
it.
exactly, that's all, we just have shifted our language a little bit to not say, please meet the maximum zoning.
Right.
So for 104 Washington, I got an update from Mistral that they did get the IDA approval.
I don't wanna hear.
Switch your other hat.
And that means they can move forward with the project and I asked for an updated timeline and they said that they could certainly close within 90 days.
Wow.
Or definitely, in 2021, that's more than 90 days, it's we're in July still, right? But they'll start the process of getting title and so forth.
Do you think they'll break ground like fall? Or that's
Well, that was
not
kind of what I
really-
was hoping in
Even
terms
just
of the
clear the
timeline.
site, I mean, if they were
Yeah.
willing to clear the site by the end of the
Yeah,
year.
that would be good, just to see something going on, right?
So it doesn't fall.
Yeah, I know.
Why does the sidewalk?
Oh my God, how could it
I
still
walk
be
by it
standing?
like almost every day, I'm like, every thunderstorm, I'm like,
Right.
I didn't get an update from 143.
They're still in the game, right?
Yes.
And still a second building
No,
at all?
I think you weren't at the last meeting where the time before that, they decided to just focus on the existing structure with the hope of being able to do something later. But they want to put like a smaller structure that's like an office space on the lot.
So, I mean, this is starting to say, there were others that were good that
We didn't get any viable applications for that one.
for a second, I mean, there were others that had construction. I'm concerned because that corner
Yeah.
really needs something. And so it would be great if they're just focused on the one building, is there a way to transfer the one building, potentially look at something? Could we have control over the second
Like
lot
you
or
have to
something
do
like that?
subdivision.
I don't know, it's just that's very different than the proposal we went into.
Right. I think they said that, yeah, that maybe, construction costs, I think, are gonna start going down. I think that,
Oops. That's
change.
go up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's only one way to
Right.
go, yeah.
It's brutal.
And because of the new construction, the historic tax credits are changed if they're gonna add a building.
But that hasn't changed since they started, so
No,
it's just, at what point is a project so different from what is proposed that,
Mhm.
it's may not even meet what is in our developer agreement at some point, so.
right, I mean, for that, it might change dramatically now if we reissue the RFP.
For sure,
At
for
the
sure.
ti- At the
At
time.
the time, yeah, no, I understand.
They were the only ones that actually had it, but the 104 had more, and they had also applied for that one. But 143, the other applications really were nothing close to what this one was, but yes, it looked differently when it was approved. So I don't know, that wasn't, when they came to present on that, there were objections to it at the time, so I don't know if we can revisit that or.
Well, we should at least check the redeveloper agreement and make sure we're anywhere near it's half as big now, so were there unit counts in that agreement? And So, and they were gonna have some, like, retail office, not retail office,
So that's
is
what
that
they're
still
doing.
there? Okay.
So they wanted, so what they proposed was the existing building would be all apartments, and then, instead of having the office in the new building,
So there's
it
a
would be
minimum
like a,
height in this zone, so they can't build a one-story, for example.
right, they can't do, okay. So that wasn't. Yeah,
The minimum height in this zone is either 2 or 3, depending on your technology.
okay. So I will get back to them on that, I wasn't aware of that.
The updates.
Just the, on 44 South Miller, we did get the work plan from the engineer. For doing the internal demolition work. And we can do an RFP for the demo work.
So it's gonna come down completely.
No, just the inside, so that we're trying to save the shell,
Okay, so save the shell. And then what?
and then sell it to someone who's gonna redevelop.
As is, clean and.
So Rubco, you know, expressed interest,
Right.
since they have
Right,
the
it's
attached
right there,
building. And it's probably, they could do the same layout as their. But, you know, there are other people that would be interested as well.
How's Rocco occupancy?
I think their July or something was their deadline for,
I heard they're having a hard
oh,
time.
you know,
Having a hard time finding
Renters.
renters, really?
Yeah.
What do you think would be curious?
I don't know why. I don't know if it's because of the income and
It's too high?
well, it's 80% and what is it, 60? So they're not finding enough people and there are 3 and 4 bedrooms, I think.
The units are,
So the units are.
they're big units.
in this first batch, because they're doing it
3
kind of
bedrooms
phases.
mostly.
Mhm.
So I hear that, yeah, they're not being able to rent up.
Just curious, so there's just, it's that they mismatched who they need. Like there's just not
Yeah, I
that
don't-
many people who
I don't-
need units that size, or
Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe.
there's 4-bedroom units.
But then they said, everybody's saying that that's what's needed.
That's the need,
Yeah.
right, so I
Right.
think that's what
Hmm.
they want. Like.
Interesting.
I think you skipped the legacy city, number 3. Oh, yeah, because I wrote all over it, my agenda. So going back to updates, so legacy city funding is the funding that, the state has released, for land banks. To partner with, CPC or other qualified lenders to do basically what we're doing in our house to home program, homeownership. And we're about ready to submit our application. We are, you know, we reached out to CPC and they're starting to work on the underwriting, reached out to our architect, who's gonna develop the scope of work. And we have 6 buildings in our portfolio that we're applying for. They're the ones listed under home because we're also applying for home funding for them. So it's 59, 63 and 136 Lander, 128 Du Bois, 140 Chambers, and 39 South Miller. So those are 1 to 3 family houses. And
And you said we're applying, so we own all of those and they're all
So we've done
Stages.
stabilization work in all of them.
Right.
To varying degrees.
Right. But nothing beyond that.
Right.
Okay.
128 Du Bois, we did a lot, you know, we spent like 250,000 there already.
And they're clean from an environmental perspective, that was part of the.
Yeah, we did asbestos and lead abatement
Okay.
in all of them, and yeah, today we had a presentation for home funding, which would just be like gap financing. And the rest would come from HCR, this program of HCR, it's 95,000, up to 95,000 a unit if you do energy, specific energy stuff.
Okay.
And then CBC would lend the remaining. And so then it's also designed to work where we wouldn't be doing the construction the way we have been with the house to home program. We would transfer ownership before construction starts to a minority developer. So they really want us to prioritize working with minority developers. And we, it looks like we're gonna be working with the current contractor that we're working with on 115 and 150 Lander. He also purchased 121 Lander from us and renovated that and is moving into that building.
Who's that?
Carlos Carbonero.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
know,
is he the guy that came here to talk to us?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
maybe, oh, and he was a purchaser.
Yeah.
It's a purchase, yeah.
Last year.
So yeah, everybody loves his work. Everyone I speak to about him just raves about him. He's gotten a lot of local subs here and
Great.
really good streamlining the construction process. Has a lot of experience in New York City as well.
And yes, capacity, seems like yes,
He
capacity.
said he has capacity and so he would have to purchase the buildings from us. So we would get the acquisition fee, you know, that would recognize some of the investment we've already put in these buildings.
Yeah.
You know, we're doing a lot of the pre-development with the architect and so forth.
Right.
Um,
We should get some consideration, so
Right.
thanks for all that.
so then the developer, in this case is a developer contractor, would do the construction. We could also share a developer fee depending on how involved we are in the development part. And then,
What do you want for that?
yeah, so in the program, it's only 12%, you know, so we can divide that out, you know, however it makes the most sense. And then they would sell, the developer sells to the end users, to the purchasers.
Right, who in that case could be anyway.
Well, there are certain
Or
parameters to the
still-
program, so, it's 80% AMI.
Still, okay, got it.
And we are applying for the home, which is an additional layer of restriction, and it's the same income, but,
And home, okay.
right, well, if we get home.
So what is like, I don't know how to argue, I understand, so like if you're the developer, right, I mean, your margin is pretty much set, but your cost could be variable. Like you're only allowed to sell this house for X, but if your building costs go up, that just compresses your margin. That's his risk.
Right, but he's getting 95,000 a unit in grant funding.
Okay.
You know, so if it's a 2-unit building, that's 100 and,
And we towards, towards the
Yes.
cost.
so that's, you know, it's it would be like an enforcement loan, but it's basically a grant,
Right,
so,
okay.
So, you know, it's not like you're not gonna become a millionaire on these projects.
No,
and
I don't want
make
to
some money.
argue, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to understand,
Yes.
I'm just trying to understand the process, right? Because it's how we get more or less developers involved, right?
Right.
Based on what the parameters are, so I was just kind of curious, just thinking through from your.
Right, and then is the opportunity to do 2 more rounds of this,
Mhm.
if we have more
Sure.
buildings.
Sure.
So you're saying that he's working out great, he's on time?
Yes,
The
I mean, it's 2 months into this.
But the quality seems
But
to
the
be-
quality is excellent and the other building he did with us is excellent.
Yeah. You know what would be helpful, maybe in the minutes or in a separate appendix, if you could kind of give us a scoreboard of this, like, give us the home, give us a little narrative on each one, and, you know, define what that means, new projects and possible acquisition, why, in process, just kind of like a scoreboard. on this.
Yeah, I
Word
sent
organized.
like a pipeline type of document last meeting, but I can continue to
Okay,
do
just
that.
I think if you could
Yeah.
update it, you know, either every other month or something, just so we have, and And for those of us who don't do it every day, so
Right,
I'm pointing
you don't
myself.
memorize all.
I don't remember section 4.2 of
Right.
house to home for the CPC, like.
Right, and I
I'm not
understand,
gonna
it's the
know that.
alphabet soup
I'm
of
not gonna
housing
know
development.
So if you have like a template, you don't have to keep retyping the same stuff.
Yeah.
You can just plug updates in so you don't waste your time.
Yes,
It's helpful for, I'm sure, for Kevin, people like me who don't live in the world, how all this comes together every day. So we don't have to bother you with this.
no, that's good.
So in case you didn't see it, Kevin just said he had to drop because his wife was in a car accident. So he had to run. Yeah. He just sent a message on Zoom.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you could, yeah, if you could just create a redundant, updating spreadsheet format with clear explanations about what the chief program is, stage room, it'd be very helpful for something. And then the creative, there's making a mark.
Sure, yeah, we are, AIB this year has been completed, and there's just a couple sort of last minute, one last installation with Vernon that's in fabrication right now. That will be a SIM on 115, which we're getting developed by, which Carlos is working on, but should be really amazing sort of install. We were awarded more money from Smith Hudson for next round, so have some conversations started for that. The ArcGIS internship with Emily finished. Thank you, Ali, for your comments. Any other board members have a chance to review she sent the email a while back, so maybe I'll recirculate it.
Yeah,
It
the
would be
discussion was
helpful.
unbelievable.
Yeah, she's
She's
amazing. I'm like, how do we?
She's really smart.
She's so smart and very, very, very quick and yeah, it's an amazing tool. If anyone is interested as well too, she wrote an entire sort of instructions on how to use story maps, which is amazing. It's like a 50-page, 52-page PowerPoint. So I know how to update things now, and so we're just filling in the gaps, like taking all the photos of the properties and making sure all the text and content resonates before we publish. So, but that's
Yeah,
where
if
we're
you
at.
could circulate, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. One question I had, if we're kind of through the agenda, is just on the coastal acquisition, just maybe talk through how that,
This is,
we apparently would like to buy an industry, which doesn't sound like a bad idea. Those are all city-owned properties now.
these are like, this was like more of a brainstorming, no,
Oh,
these
okay,
are just
fine,
buildings.
it would be strange for the city to own all of those properties.
They're just, buildings that we see are vacant
I see,
on Amber
okay.
Street that, may or may not be,
Yeah.
something that we can acquire. And they're, adjacent to many of the properties that we have completed or are working on. And so I think we put up that list for me to ask about, and I was told a lot of them, or none of those are city owned, but there may be some that are in some process,
You think they're okay?
Well, so that's,
Yeah, that's a good question.
stepping back a minute, and Ramona, I sincerely apologize if you don't know this yet, but you will be told this soon. But so the city we file a rent for tax foreclosure every year. So last year and it's in a 3-year delay, so last year we should have taken 2017. It was stayed because of the eviction stay. It was thrown out for a weird technical reason. And so there are some questions now. Long story short, we will not be acquiring more property for at least 6 months at a minimum. That would be when the 18 is finally filed and signed, but it may be longer than that. That's in rent property, but I think the other ones, and this brings up the other things that the city has, and David really wants me to pitch this half of it. We have a series of buildable single lots, so a typical lot, which is typical is around 25,500. He did call Madeline, and it does not qualify for Lacey City Fund.
Yeah,
We begged. But so we have a series of those, which I think if, some relationship with the land bank could be interesting if there's something there. And then the other, with things like this, we still have the powers to acquire under the abandonment proceedings too, which I think we are willing if there is, especially a substantial, few parcels in an area or something and a need. We don't wanna hold property. So if the land bank wants to
That's why
hold
we're
for
here.
yourself or for
It's
someone else,
almost
it's really
simultaneous
why you're
transaction.
there. Exactly, so the three-way transaction is
Right.
something we would love to. So, Lander Street and then obviously someone Williams maybe,
And I know that we're taking some of them back at some point,
It's-
Ally, right?
it's
on
exactly,
Lander.
right, that there's kind of that, however that agreement falls out with the, what's his face,
William.
Yeah.
whatever his name is,
Yeah.
moved to Hawaii.
Yeah,
Armin.
architect in Hawaii.
Yes, what's his name?
McKeon, Jeff.
McKean.
Yeah, so they, not all of those are his and not all of those are in the
Yeah.
agreement, but they're, so, but those kinds of negotiations, I think Jeremy's willing to do on the land bank's behalf, or ultimately on the land bank's behalf, or do it on the city's behalf, but
Right.
or again, the abandonment proceedings on certain properties.
Because it sounds like logically too, from a stabilization standpoint, if we've developed so much on Lander Street, but we still have these pockets of
Yeah, it
instability,
does,
it
right.
makes perfect sense to try to figure
Well,
out
like,
how
yeah,
to acquire one way or another.
I think one of the most striking instances of that is in between 121 and 115 Lander, we have 117 and 119.
Yeah.
Which the backside of them is just wide open, nothing, there's no boards on the windows or anything. And I don't know, if you look up the property, you just know that it's owned by such and such, but there's no appearance of any sort of maintenance that's happening. The front is not getting downtown because they cover their pit, but they're basically, one has a chimney that's getting ready to fall.
Right.
And it's right next to our, at 117, and we're working on it.
Right.
It's like, that kind of thing is like a little bit.
Well, and that's why the abandonment proceedings exist, it's it's a surprisingly low bar to file the first request, so. If that's, if there is maybe right now that is the ask, as a priority, and we can look into that.
Yeah. Are a lot of these buildings owned like in sort of anonymous LLCs, or do we know the owners, or a combination?
I think it's a combination, yes.
Right, so listen, there's aspiration above it.
Yeah.
Aspiration. Before I
Aspiration.
had to see 14 properties in 3 blocks.
Yeah.
Aspiration was good.
So yeah, just to round that out, we're not going to be in a position very soon or probably in the midterm where we're just gonna have a list and say, pick what you want.
Right.
But if there are asks, either of the land or of both buildings, that we're hoping.
Maybe we should do like a stability analysis, to the point of falling chimneys and maybe flag, rank these sort of in order of imminent danger, stability, or whatever. That can turn into an asset list, at least it's an ask, right, whatever materializes is what it is, but that would be a good thing to do.
Yeah, take some pictures and down.
Yeah, exactly right, yeah, we could prioritize it.
And I'm sure it's already reported, I'm assuming it's
Yeah.
reported to code.
It
right?
is,
They're
it's just
aware.
by the time it gets to, I think have been hesitant to own properties we're not gonna be able to maintain or sell easily, and so if someone somewhere is paying the taxes and they show up in court and the trash gets cleaned up, I think it gets to the bottom of the list. But it can rise to the top of the list if there's interest from third party.
Right, okay.
I think now the Legacy Cities grant, there's this potential
Right,
for a second
exactly.
round, it makes sense.
Exactly.
Before, we probably weren't gonna take
We
it.
didn't want to push it.
We didn't want it either, so.
Yeah.
All right, we have to execute.
Yeah, and hopefully there'll be more funding coming down the pike as well, because this is, the Legacy Cities is just 3 rounds of it. And it's kind of interim funding, but we're still hoping that there'll be more of a permanent funding source for land banks.
Right,
Or money in the infrastructure bill that,
even if it's discretionary,
Right.
in the infrastructure,
Right.
whatever happens to.
because we know that the need is just gonna continue to be there.
Oh, sure.
Well, didn't Kingston get? Where is it, Kingston? Did they get some sort of big grant?
They got NOVA funding, I believe. We don't have a buffet.
I was gonna say, so yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, but you know, they're in the beginning stages of starting their land bank, and Poughkeepsie Duchess just started as well, but they don't have any property yet.
Mhm.
That was all we had.
I don't think we have a need for executive session, right?
So
And next meeting, we're going to do
we'll
the
do
email poll and get a sense of, and if people aren't sure about say, every month, let's just look at August, settle, talk about it more in August, whatever. Okay.
Great.
If nobody has anything else, it's 4:02, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second, for motion, thank you, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, meeting is adjourned.
Not a quorum
To adjourn.
Forum to adjourn.
So we just have to sit here forever.
And Andre wants to, because he forgot something. Oh, my God, we can do that. What do you think?
Extenuating circumstances.
Thanks, Paul.